Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we'll see if anybody else is going to join us. I know he reached out that she is unavailable today, unfortunately, but I will get started. And for those of you watching the recording, you'll be able to hopefully have skipped to this point and now start viewing. Okay, can everybody see my screen? Perfect. I see Adrian nodding. Thank you. All right. Today should be a pretty quick one. We're going to start with a welcome and then an icebreaker as always, then a few updates and a midway retrospective since we are halfway through our course, which is really crazy, and then just a quick reminder and some Q&A. So first, I would love if we can go one by one to hear first your favorite movie snack, and then your favorite part of the WEB103 course thus far. Adrian, will you get us started and then popcorn to some?
Yeah, all right. Um, and so I'd say going out to the movies, gotta have popcorn, but I also like getting Reese's Pieces candy for it. Lasts long. And favorite part so far has been really getting the whole review of the front end and back end, and using render. That's been uh, very cool to try. And I'll go ahead and popcorn it to Andy.
Yeah, so basically my favorite movie snack is popcorn. It's not really like a snack, but I'll just go with chicken popcorn. Yeah, I, I like eating chicken and stuff. So yeah, the favorite thing about Web3 is you just learn how to use like the full stack framework. You're just first going over the front end, the back end, and then database. And now basically we're learning more about the full stack development. So I'll give a popcorn to Kian.
My favorite movie snack is nerd clusters. And my favorite part of the Web 103 course actually is probably like the same, that like we're getting a really good exposure into like full stack. So like how the backend looks like. Um, and yeah, just working with like more backend stuff is like kind of very interesting to look at from like someone with like front end experience. Yeah.
Yes, totally. I'm like definitely more of a front end kind of person, so I feel like the content in Web 103 is especially valuable. And in case you care, my favorite movie snack is also nerd clusters. I love those. Okay, really quickly, I have some updates that are relevant to this week. Like I had shared last week, there's no more secret password if you miss a sync, though I would love to hear your answer to the icebreaker if you're watching the recording. And then I would like to give the very important update, as I'm highlighting here, that TF observations are starting this week. So TF observations are a really important part of the TF role, wherein the TFM, myself, observes each of the tech fellows of a given course and reviews your performance across 4 key areas that are part of the role requirements for TFs. So I know most of you have been through TF observations before. If you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to me. But overall, they are meant to be very low stress and very just functional to help you improve your work as a TF. One thing, Andy, will you mute your microphone because I think you have a little bit of background noise. You're all good.
Sorry.
I do that all the time. And second thing, does anybody have any questions about TF observations? Okay. Yep. They're meant to be super chill. And if anybody watching the recording has any questions, you can reach out to me via Slack, of course. They should not make you stress or anything, but you will see me observing you in some of our upcoming courses, and then we will have a one-on-one conversation about some different areas of the TF role and where you can grow and where you're doing amazing. And in full transparency, part of what TF observations serve for is that the data collected is used in our rehiring process. Just because I think it's important to know that. The next thing here is that next week we will have pod merges. If you've been a special topics TF or student before, you might know that pod merges typically happen in week 5. So that's where we merge, like if there's only 1 or 2 people in a group because the other students dropped, we'll merge them in with a different pod. But for WEB103 specifically, we do that in week 6 because week 6 starts the group project portion, which requires specifically that there are groups of 3 in each pod. So I'll update that, but you'll see changes in your pods. I think all of you will see changes based on those merges. Okay, any questions about any of these updates? Okay, I will keep going through it. All right, now we're going to do a little bit of a midway retrospective and check-in. And if you're watching the recording, I would actually love if you could send your answers to these questions because they're definitely important feedback. But what we're going to do is we are going to really quickly discuss a little bit about y'all's experience as a WebTF and a CodePath employee. And then we'll talk a little bit about the curriculum, content, pace of Web103, since we're halfway through, which is really crazy. So first things first, we'll go round table and you can raise your hand if you have anything burning. Otherwise, we can just popcorn. I would love to hear from each of you which aspects, if any, of the TF role are still unclear, and if you have any questions about employment with CodePath. So I'm going to give us like 30 seconds to think about this, and then I'm going to ask one of you to start, and you can popcorn to others. And for anybody watching the recording, you'll soon see that I will start a Slack thread with any important information that comes out of this combo. So let me give you a minute to think. Okay, will you give me like a thumbs up, middle down if you're ready to begin discussing? Middle? Okay, let's wait a little bit. Okay, yeah. Okay. It's been about a minute. Does anybody feel willing to start us off with an answer to either of these questions, or both of them if you have it?
Okay, well, I can really just say main part of that ends up unclear is how to deal with groups with people who are like in a non-study location, not suitable for study location, maybe a work or job.
Okay, so you're saying that you feel like it's been unclear how to deal with those situations?
Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I will speak to that. What do you guys prefer? Do you want me to like answer these questions as we come up with them? Or do we want to take all of our answers to these questions on the screen and then I can address them all? I think maybe really quickly, I'll speak to Adrian's question because this is definitely important. And this was unclear to me as a TF. And a very important thing to understand is that this is different depending on the course. So if you have a student in your pod that is not engaging, whether it be because their camera is like one of these, or they are like in a bus or at work, we do want TFs to address those situations, which I understand is like incredibly uncomfortable. As is such, I am always available if you want to text me via Slack or come back to the main room and let me know, and I can talk to that student. The general procedure should be first that you reach out to them verbally or via Zoom DM and say something like, "Hi, Andy. I noticed it looks like you're moving. We require students to join class from a computer in a stable environment where they can focus and engage. Would you be able to leave class and come back once you're at a location that meets those requirements?" Something like that. So the first step is you're reaching out. Hopefully, the behavior changes somehow. The second step, if it does not, is that you would call in the TFM via Slack and let them know about the situation. And you're welcome to do so with ops too if their camera is like completely off, because sometimes then ops notices and like wants to remove them. And what I will do is I will pull the student into the main room. You're also welcome if you want to be super cutthroat. You can just move them into the main room by going to the breakout overview tab on Zoom. And then once they're in the main room, I'll try to discuss with them. And usually what TFMs were told to ask them is that they need to leave entirely until they're like meeting all of our requirements to come back to the class. If they are not meeting the requirements, or like we can't get in touch with them, or if like the behavior is repeating, we put them in the waiting room so that they like notice that there's a problem with the Zoom call, because sometimes people have it like hidden away. And that's the way that operations and myself flag students that are like completely disengaged, and then eventually we remove them entirely. So to recap, for TFs, you should reach out via Slack, via Zoom DM, saying something like, "Hey, we require students, blah, blah, blah." You can let me know if you want me to write that message ever. And then you, if that doesn't help, should reach out to me and I will handle the conversation with the student. Adrian, does that make that more clear? Do you have any follow-up questions related to that?
No other questions.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's definitely something that's a little bit unclear, I think, as a TF. So I really appreciate that, Adrian. Okay, Andy, I would love to hear if you have any questions about which aspects of the TF role are still unclear, or if you have any questions about employment with CodePath.
Yeah, so so I have questions about the employment for Copath. Yeah, this might be the same question that I've been telling you from the last sync. So do we have? I know we have to apply again for the spring roll. But the question is, are we have to do the pre-work video again?
This is a great question. For all of you three and everybody watching the recording, I'll just like spit out some information about rehiring for the spring term so that we have it all. First question, yes, you will have to reapply. Oh, don't want a thumbs up. Yes, you will have to reapply for the spring term to be a TF, whether it's for any course, whether it's this course or another course. Second question, you likely will not have to do pre-work, the pre-work video, the application video, the question video. There's a lot of different ways people call that. You likely will not have to do it as a returning TF, but some years we do ask everybody to do it. You will hear probably around week 8 or 9 via email to probably your CodePath and personal email, but perhaps your CodePath email first, about the opportunity to apply to be a TF again. And applying earlier, I believe, does help your chances of being rehired. Another note, we, for the past, I think like 5 years, have always had vastly more interest than there are spots available for TFs. And we try to hire a balance of returning and new TFs. So there are no guarantees that just because you were a TF this semester, you'll be invited back to be a TF next semester. Andy, does that answer your question? And does that spur any follow-up questions? Oh, you're muted.
Yes, actually. I have
Okay.
another question though.
Tell
So since let's say that you got accepted to TF role for spring, and the one question is, do we have to do the all those for the payment form, everything, like we have to do, we have to file the code quantum stuff again, or
No, great question. The I-9, like the social
Yeah.
security verification, essentially all of like the HR-ish onboarding is already complete and you would not have to do any of that again. That's a great question.
that's only for new TFs. For
Yes,
not
like
returning
net new hires.
returning TFs, no, don't have to do that.
No. Good question. Okay,
Yeah, that's the questions I still have.
awesome. Okay, Keon, do you have any questions or comments related to this slide?
I don't have any questions. Yeah.
Sure. That's awesome. If anybody watching the recording has any questions, feel free to drop them in our Slack thread or via DM, because I know some of this stuff you might want to ask privately. Okay. I would now love to hear maybe just like one sentence from each of you on how you think your experience as a TF could be improved. And maybe I'll get the ball rolling. One thing that I felt when I was a TF is that the role expectations could have been more clear when I was like hired. Like I felt like I didn't know that I was going to have a weekly sync, or like I didn't know how many hours I was supposed to allocate to weekly tasks when I was hired. And that was one thing that I felt could be improved. And I think that's still improving-ish. I would love to hear from all of y'all. What do you think is something that could be improved? And this doesn't have to be very well thought out. Who wants to start off? Keon, you went last time. Do you have a thought on this one?
Uh, I think I don't really have a thought. Maybe just like probably when we were doing training, maybe having like better experience with like students would have been a little bit better, because I feel like the examples they gave were very like generic. Um, and I feel like people didn't really like personalize it, or maybe I don't know how other people like do TFs, but I feel like it took me like a minute to like understand that, oh, I could do this in my own way kind of thing. Um, yeah, because I think when I like did my like first breakout rooms TF thing, um, yeah, I think like the like example of like how to like really talk to like your breakout rooms are like really nice, but I think like I really wanted to like personalize it kind of thing, and like I wanted to have that flexibility, but I wasn't sure if I was able to, just because like, yeah, I was like, I feel like I'm just like a new grad, so I feel like I could definitely like relate to a lot of the students who are like still in this program. Um, and yeah, I feel like just more of that clarity kind of thing.
That's a really good point, and I will definitely bring that up in my next meeting with my higher ups, because I definitely agree with that. And I hope you know, like, you guys are always welcome to add personal flair in your TFing. We love to see that, and I think it enriches the program. Andy, Adrian. Andy, do you maybe want to answer this one? And then we'll go to Adrian.
Sure. Yeah. So, I think I have two things, but could be one. So the first thing I can improve is engage the students a little bit more. Like so, some people, some students might be working on the labs, focusing working on the labs. I could just engage, tell them that, hey, you're doing a good job, or there's something I want you to do next time or something. And the second thing, you know, I can just sometimes if the students are struggling with the lab, I could just I can just let them know if they need help, so I can just hop on the lab if they so I can assist them what they need help with. So yeah, that's basically what there's something I can improve as a TF.
I love that, Andy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Adrian, what about you? How do you think your experience could be improved as a TF?
I think something from this semester is it's already kind of been addressed, but having the exemplar of the lab for those who were behind in doing the lab, because this is the first time I've really had such an issue with it, but being able to give students that exemplar so that they are able to stay on pace with the lab. Yep.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's interesting because I actually hadn't encountered something like that before, since I've mostly been a TF and TFM in like the tip space where it's like net new topics, net new work every time. So I didn't think about sort of the snowballing effect that's happening with the lab. I really appreciate you bringing that up, Adrian, because I also need to remember to bring that up in my next call. So adding that to my list here. Okay. Awesome. All right. I would love, I think maybe we kind of addressed that with Adrian's last comment, but I'm going to give you guys just 1 minute to think about this question, or these two questions, I should say, excuse me. What aspects of the Web 103 curriculum have worked well, and which aspects could be improved? If you think about the Web 103 curriculum compared to other code path courses, compared to your own college courses, compared to your pickleball team, what do you think has been great? What do you think could be improved? I'll give us a minute to think about this one, and then we'll jump in on discussing that one. Okay, thumbs up. I'm ready to discuss. Okay. Adrian, you hit me with your thumb up first. Would you take it away with this one first?
Yeah, so I think really the content covered for Web 103 is spot on. It really does cover the key aspects of the front end and the back end, and keeping in mind what the server does and having to access the database. So good content is covered. I guess the area to improve is it could be explained why they start out without using React. Like I know it's potentially just a chance to explore different aspects of coding a front end. But it'd be good to just tell them that. And also the database commands. I feel like that's probably going to need more time for them to actually learn it, because that's kind of gone pretty quickly.
Okay, yes. Keon, would you like to speak on these questions and or follow up on what Adrian shared?
Yeah, I think like definitely I agree with Adrian. Like the curriculum definitely covers a lot of like Web 103, like the like full stack option of like web development. And I definitely think that's very neat and very nice. Especially if you want to jump into that kind of environment. Um, but I think the one thing that could be improved is probably a bit of the, I guess, the length of the like labs and the projects. I find that like some of my students also do like struggle keeping up with the like workload of like the curriculum. And definitely like it's like here and there, like some people do like keep up, but then some people don't. And I think like probably some things to do is probably just like to add some like stretch goals or something. Um, Probably add some common mistakes kind of thing on like the curriculum, because definitely like some of my students kind of run into like the same mistakes, and definitely like they don't really have an answer. Sometimes we've also gone through like the same mistake and we try to help them, but they ran into it like through a different way. um yeah, and definitely I think that's probably like the one thing that I was like thinking about in terms of just like the length of just like labs and projects. Yeah.
Okay, yes, I love that. I will definitely bring that up with the curriculum team because I think in some other courses we actually have like a little like common mistakes thingy, and I haven't seen it anywhere on our course portal or on any of the curriculum stuff for Web 103. So that's definitely a really good point. And of course, Adrian as well. I think the exemplars for labs and like starting out without React, that's definitely something that I saw in some of our feedback that people are like, why are we doing this? So making things feel intentional because everything we do is intentional, but a lot of the times people are just like, these idiots, they made this course not start with React. So being able to explain that, those are all really, really good points. Okay, Andy, what do you think about these questions?
Yeah, so I have both questions to say. So what I like about the Web 103 is they cover most of the front end and the back end, and now we're now translating to the full stack side of stuff. So like how we can connect both the back the back end to the front end. Like right now we're just learning like the basic part of the framework, like we're learning like the parent stack, like like um Postgres, React, Node.js, and Express.js. Um, yeah, that's what I like about the course. The things that I wanted to improve is what Kian said. Like they have to improve the length of the lab and the lecture. And the other thing they can improve is there's some like mistakes they have added on the projects at the lab. Like there's one of those typos on the code. Yeah, that's basically what I can answer right now.
To jump in on that, it would be good to have an easy way of submitting like typo errors on about the instructions, because sometimes I do see them, but I'm a bit unsure how to bring it in.
Okay,
That's one
yeah.
thing
Sorry, go ahead, Andy. I'm like excited because that
no,
was a
no,
really good.
I was like I was about to say the same question. I mean the same answer. Like they could just have the ability for us like to edit some small typo on the lab.
Yes. Okay. I really appreciate this because that is something that I struggled with as a TF2, where I was like, am I supposed to like text my manager because there's like one letter off? Like that seems like kind of a lot, which first of all, you can always Slack me with absolutely anything. We have access, the TFMs, to like a Google form. It's an Asana form, but like essentially a Google form for the curriculum team So I am gonna see if I can get permission to share that with you guys because Web 103 specifically, I think has a lot of like those little errors and like cobwebs kind of left from previous iterations. So I really, really appreciate that, Andy. It's a really good point. And I thank you, Adrian, for saying like I wish there was an easy way to do it. Because I am going to see if I can make that easier. Right now, whenever you guys see something like that, please, please, please Slack DM me with like a screenshot or a quick message about what you're seeing that feels off. Um, and I am going to work on seeing if I can get an easier way for you guys to raise those quick typos and errors and a little bit of lacks of clarity because there have definitely been some things like that. Like I know this past week, students realized that the README link, the README template link for the week 5 project was just like a dead link. And I went through like texting so many people on Slack to figure out that there's actually a document with like all of the template links that I could just easily fix that. So there is a way when we identify those errors, but identifying them early and clearly and getting them to me / to the right people to work with is really key. So I super duper appreciate you guys bringing that up, and I will work on that. Okay. The only other slide I have here is just in case there was anything that you guys like really wanted to share or feel like you've been thinking about as a cool idea to improve, or something that's been really going wrong for you, anything. If there's anything else you want to ask, contribute, highlight, make clear, this is your time to do so. Does anybody feel like they have anything? Okay, blank stares, don't all jump in at once. Okay.
I think probably like, I think for like lab 1, I'm not sure if there was like, wait, let me just double check real quick. But I'm pretty sure when there was the projects, I would have loved to see like other projects too. And yeah, because I think like there was only one example, and I was like, oh, maybe like what would other examples of like exemplar projects look like, kind of thing. And yeah, I think like probably also having like a good general like basis of like this is what like a really exemplar project did, someone who did like above and beyond. But maybe also show a project that's like this is what it's supposed to look like, just like functional.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I love that.
that's what I was thinking.
Yeah, and I feel like that's like something that I would assume would be pretty easy for them to implement if they could like take some from students this term, and put them in there. I think that could be really easy and definitely helpful. So I love that. Anything else?
I'd like to ask if the projects, which is the students are doing individually, are we, which have been assigned to also do the project, are we going to share ours, or is it just to make sure that we can help them with their project?
That is such a good point, Adrian, because I currently do not have any plan for y'all to share yours, except for like obviously they can live on your GitHub. Would you guys like to share those near the end of the course between ourselves?
And I do have to admit, I've been stretched on time, so it is hard for me to complete the project additionally with the lab, mainly
Okay.
because of the idea generation.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm disturbing. So yeah, so for the projects, I didn't realize that the week 3 and the week 5 project, I've been mistaken like of completing like doing the listicle projects for week 3 and 4. I just found out that this week 3 and week 5 project is different than the week 1 and 2 project. So I'm not sure like if I'm supposed to complete this like those separate projects from week 3 and week 5.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and I appreciate you highlighting that that wasn't clear, Andy. The intention, the big high level intention, which I think, Adrian, it sounds like you know this in the back of your mind, is that you want to be able to help students with their questions. The exact way that we implement what you need to do to be able to help students varies term by term, week by week, capacity by capacity, TF by TF. There are some TFs, I don't know if y'all stalk each other's projects, that are like doing every single thing. There are some TFs that's not realistic for them to be able to do in 2 hours. I would say personally, based on my web development abilities, ain't no way I would be able to do every single thing in 2 hours each week. So I completely understand that that's like not super realistic for everybody. And that's why like I don't leave any comments about like you're missing one of the, table stakes for the project. Absolutely, having a lab completed is an expectation so that you can really help walk students through all of that. The project, I want it to help you guys as much as it helps you help the students. So really, I want you to think about it in a way where like, if it's a crazy busy week, it's okay if you don't get a ton done. And if you see that I haven't like nitpicked apart some of your GitHub links, that's likely why, because I know that we vary in our availabilities and it's hard to get all of that stuff done. Andy, to your question, and as a general note, there's never a situation where you need to backtrack as a TF. And we don't allow like any sort of back billing for if you, all of a sudden in week 5 have availability. It's not like you can do 6 hours outside of class billed as project time.
Yeah, of course, definitely. Like, because on the weekly like our weekly projects, we've been doing the labs most of the time, and the projects for as well. So I wasn't sure. Wait, I have a question though.
Yeah.
So does the project also affect our TF performance? Like, if we didn't have the projects done, does it also affect our chances of um admitting us to our as a tech fellow for the spring curriculum?
In short, no. I definitely don't want you guys to feel stressed about that in any way. It's tricky, right? Because you're in a different situation than students because you're billing for your time, whereas students, if they wanted to, like they could spend all night on their project to make it like super duper cool. And that's gonna be like their top pinned GitHub thing, repo. For you guys, I won't be considering that in like the data that I send to the team that does rehiring. What's relevant there is that you spent a decent 2 hours, the max billing time, and got as much as you could of the lab and the project done in those 2 hours in a way that you felt best prepared you to assist the students. So I've seen like some people comment in their code that like they did a specific piece because they were like, I had never tried something like this before and I wanted to make sure I could help students with this. Like that's a-okay if you're like, I already really have this stuff with the project. I'm just going to do this part because I only have 15 minutes left of my 2 hours allotted for weekly tasks. So Andy, no, don't worry. It's not like we're going to say like, well, Andy didn't do his project too, so he can't come back as a TF. That's not a consideration. The consideration is that you're spending those maximum 2 hours as best as you can to prepare for the weekly for the class. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else, anything else that we like want to highlight here? And I hope you guys know this is super valuable and like this is all going in a DM to more people who can do more things to make the TF experience in Web 103 better. So I really appreciate it. Okay, let's just jump through the rest of this super fast. I always wanted to feature this slide with our general expectations, but we've been through it a lot and we're already at 42 minutes, so I'm just going to keep going. I will say this piece, a quick reminder about cameras and camera management. We talked a little bit about earlier or Adrian's question about what to do if you have somebody that is not adhering to our camera policy in your room, definitely please make sure that you try reaching out to them via Zoom DM, and then you send them over to me if you can't get them to work on their camera. But I would like this week to ask for 1 to 2 more volunteers of TFs, and you don't have to volunteer now, you can reach out via Slack to help me monitor students' cameras during the lecture. So during the lecture, if you're a camera monitoring volunteer, you'll use the ask to turn on camera feature in Zoom, which, like, if you hover over somebody with their camera off, you get, and you'll send a message to them, and then we'll reach out to me if there's any cases that we need to take further. So we don't need to speak on that now. I want to get us off this call, but do know that that is an opportunity that some of your fellow TFs have already taken advantage of, and I would love to have 1 to 2 more helping with. And you can reach out to me, anybody that's here or watching the recording via Slack, to do so. Okay. I am assuming that we have covered all of your questions since we did a lot of questioning today, but I'm of course happy to stay. Other than that, you're all free to go. I really, really appreciate you guys. Seriously, this is all really, really helpful feedback. And I have a big long note that I'm going to put into a nicely worded email to get some changes made. So thank you guys so much. Okay, cool. If there's nothing else, that's all I have for y'all.
All right.
Bye. Good night.
Right,
Good night.
Right.